I think
Good to
we're
go,
ready to
Crystal.
go ahead. Okay, okay. So we'll begin the meeting. Hello and welcome everybody on this beautiful sunny Wednesday. We'll do our call to order, and our first agenda item is the adoption of the agenda itself. Doug, Councillor Emsley? Okay, this is to accept it, not to add. Okay, so to accept it, Councillor Elmsley, seconded by Linda. Oh. Item 2.2, any declarations of pecuniary interest? Being none. 2.3, adoption of the meetings from previous meeting minutes. Oh my goodness. So our last meeting was March 24th. Elizabeth's moving to accept them. Seconder.
Andre,
Thank you very much. I don't believe we have any correspondence. So we will move on to 5.1, which is Barb's update for us.
Okay, thanks, Crystal. I appreciate it. I don't have a lot to discuss today, other than I'll just give you a bit of an update of what I'm working on. I'm moving management into the new template. We're getting a lot of background noise from someone.
me.
But yeah, okay, and so the new we have a new logo template. So I'm just actually moving all of the information over to that new template. That'll be completed over the summer. So I'm taking a look at the management directives as I go along. And one example is the accessible meetings. With it, I want to include a virtual piece, okay, on that, which was never there before. So there will be some changes to those. Once the management directives are completed and changed, I also want to make them available on the city website, so for public viewing, so that, for instance, people with service animals are aware of what their obligations are when they do visit a public area or a city facility. So it'll be a good thing to do that. We're also collecting information on a diversity, equity, and inclusion policy piece. And we'll be looking at the development of that probably during 2022 and 23. This year will be a year of collecting information and trying to put a Kawartha Lakes diversity, equity, and inclusion policy together for council to take a look at. So, that's another thing that I'm working at. And also during the summer, I'll be working on the public spaces working group in the development of formalizing a planning development checklist, okay, that can be given to a developer as to what we would look for as an accessibility committee. So that's basically my update for today. I'm going to let, I know we've done a lot of work with regards to the accessibility awards, and I'll let Elizabeth or yourself update on that. Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you, Barb. I will pass it over to Elizabeth to give our public awareness update.
The biggest thing for our working group is the Accessibility Awards, which will be presented virtually on June the 1st at approximately 1 o'clock, 1:30. And it will be available for people to watch on the YouTube channel, the same place as you would watch council. And despite it being COVID and strange times, we're really pleased to say that we have 7 very good recipients who will receive, and we have 1 recipient in each category. So that's our excitement for this report. And of course, I can't tell you who they are because we don't tell anybody until after the fact.
Great, thank you, Elizabeth. And I know it was a short update, but I know there's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes for that. So I know we're all excited for that. I think it'll be different virtual, but it should be a great event. I'm looking forward to it for sure. Next is 5.3, an update from Public Spaces. I'm not sure if it's Norm or Andre who want to give an update.
I don't have anything. I suggest Andre.
Okay, Andre? Thanks, Norm.
Okay. Yes. Okay. One of the updates, one of the things I want to discuss is we've been having several now resubmissions of for some of the new buildings that are getting built, going to be in Kawartha Lakes, and in regards to the accessibility advisory committee notes on how to make it more accessible, and we seem to be going nowhere, and I'm baffled. I'm trying to be professional, trying to make things professional so that we're all professional in doing this. But I think I have an idea that I'm going to probably have to. Basically, it's to state to the developers that they seem to be missing the point, that they're not trying to provide. They're only doing the minimum requirements of the building code, of the zoning, and everything, and nothing else. And I'm not sure. Maybe somebody in this committee could also give me some ideas, or give the public space people some ideas on how to deal with this. Well, all I can really say right now, there's a lot of resubmissions, which is good. There's a lot of development, which is fantastic, but it seems to be going nowhere.
Okay, Councillor Elmsley.
Thanks, Andre, for that. I'm wondering if your working group, if we set up, or if we could set up perhaps a Zoom meeting with the acting director of Development Services, Richard Hawley, and maybe express some of your concerns with him to see what he thinks might be a possible solution. I think we have to go to the planning people in order to, initiate a mind change amongst some of these people. So I'm happy to try and do that if you would like your working group to have a conversation with Richard. He's a very open, easy person to talk to, and getting his time is maybe a little bit difficult, but he's usually fairly accommodating.
It's 700 meters.
It's a very good idea. That one might be very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you want me to try and do that? Maybe you could get in touch with Barb and your group and give me some dates that might work, and then I'll go to Richard and see what we can do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
No problem. I'll try and coordinate something.
Thank you, Barb.
Elizabeth.
Am I to understand, Andre, that the applications are meeting what's required, they're just not going above and beyond?
That's exactly what's happening. Obviously, if you look at these statistics and everything, and we're going to have, we're over 20-some% of people that may not have a physical disability, but have disabilities. And every time I'm trying to state that, we should try to go beyond a bit. And every time the responses from the design team is, well, we're meeting the building code. We're meeting the requirements, which Yes, they are. But that's it.
In 1 kilometer, turn
Well, if
left
that's
on Victoria Park Avenue.
If that's
I'm
the
sorry.
case that they're meeting the building codes, then is it not something, rather than going to talk to our planning department or whatever, that it makes sense that maybe the building codes need to be changed as opposed to,
Oh, I
because,
don't
I mean, it's human nature. You're going to do most people do
In 700
what's required,
meters,
but not
turn left on
anymore.
Victoria Park Avenue.
I totally agree with you. And unfortunately, I think what happens is all, the accessibility advisory committees of Ontario, it's probably the only way is we have to somehow find ways to make this a push so that eventually the code will listen and change. But how do we do this? And maybe it's what we're going to do with what Councillor Elmsley was saying, is that we talk to our planning department, see if they have any ideas. But this is what we have to do, because obviously they're doing the bare minimum, which, you look at some of these things, they have parking spaces, 3 handicap parking spaces, when there's 15
Turn left on Victoria
apartments that are
Park
going to be
Avenue.
accessible. And yet they're meeting the zoning bylaws, so okay, fine, it's great, but it will not, it will not serve the people that are going to be needing these spaces. It's one of these, and they just reply back, well, it's meeting the minimum, which I totally agree with you. So we have to try to push. We have to find a way to impress people to maybe go beyond.
Diane, did you want to add a comment?
I wonder if somewhere along the line, like I think starting with the planning department here is really important. And I think the municipality has a lot of say in that, right? I mean, all the municipalities have their own versions of the building code. So it's a really good place to start. And I'm wondering if we might get a little bit of publicity about this. So would there be any...
In 1.5 kilometers, arrive at 1900 Victoria Park
Sorry.
Avenue on the right.
No problem.
No,
No,
so we are driving. We're trying to get to. I'm trying to get in. We're driving to Toronto, and I'm stuck. My wheelchair is stuck inside of the van, and the only place we go and get this fix is going into Toronto.
Oh,
So that's why I'm sorry. We're just about there. We have another minute or two.
well, you're in the right committee.
Yeah, but I agree with you. What you're saying. I
That
think
we might-
Good Boy.
Yeah, that we might do a, it might be worth a story of how this goes, because you're going to be meeting with them and
Mhm.
there might be a story there, get things started that way.
We got to impress people. We got to start telling people, hey, we need this. And that might even be with the council. That council has to maybe understand that we have to try at the best that they can to also impress the developers to maybe go beyond. But,
In 700 meters, arrive at 1900 Victoria Park Avenue on the right.
we're getting close. Sorry.
So I think this has been a good discussion, and maybe we're sort of at the beginning of something, and maybe if the public awareness or public spaces group can discuss a little bit more and maybe decide what the next step is. So through Barb, if it's, or Councillor Elmsley meeting with Richard Foley and going from there, and sort of making a plan, and then maybe media is part of that. Maybe that brings in public awareness. So maybe you could sort of task that to the public spaces group, and you can update us either at the June meeting or before that with what's going on.
Could we ask for the meeting to be recorded?
They generally aren't when we're just meeting, okay, but we certainly can take a handwritten record And what I like to do is I like to email people back with the discussions. Are they in agreement with what we discussed? And that way it can be shared, you know, the information.
The planning department's not the bad guy in this
No.
case. Planning department's approving according to the building code. And the building code, as I'm sure Andre would be happy to tell us, is a provincial document and is covers the whole province of Ontario. But there are subtle ways that a planning department can encourage a builder to make changes that would be more palatable. And I mean, we got a whole bunch of things coming down the pipe. Several apartment buildings in Lindsay. I mean, Andre's going to be a busy guy. He and his group are going to be busy because there are a number of new builds coming. I think permits are up double over last year already. So, you know, you're going to see lots of things going on. And starting with talking to Richard and the planners, I'm not saying he will have all the answers, but he certainly may be able to point us in a direction or make arrangements for something else to happen. I think, you know, maybe trying to publicize or record the meeting or whatever is putting the cart before the horse. Let's see what we can accomplish first, and then go to you know, more insistent measures if we have to. But if we can get some successes by just having a meeting with the planning department and seeing if they're willing to try and get the developers to be more flexible in what they're doing. And in a lot of cases, it's not going to cost them more money. It's going to be beneficial to them. So I think that it's a better way to go. And certainly, Barb, I think that, you know, if at some point in time over the next few months, the Accessibility Committee made a presentation to council on what they're doing and just kind of an overview on accessibility, and encouraging council when they look at new applications that they consider how accessible these new applications and new developments are. So we not only get to the planning department, but we also get to council who sit on the Planning Advisory Committee and Committee of Adjustment and other things, where they can ask these questions and where they can have some influence. So I think that, you know, the softer approach to begin with, I believe, is the better way to go.
Yes, we've actually discussed going to the Planning Advisory Committee first, and introducing the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, because they have a lot of material on accessible, adaptable housing, and then also introducing the Design for Public Spaces. That's part of the integrated accessibility regulation, just to build that awareness within the planning advisory group. And we could take that same presentation directly to council if council is accepting to that. I think the more education that we provide, then it gives them more information to make wise decisions. What I'm seeing in these developments, and when I've been speaking with Andre, is a huge majority of this development is if we're older adult communities or communities for people with disabilities. And it's unfortunate if they're not building the units in an adaptable way. because it will be so much more costly for people to retrofit later. So, you know, I think that it's a project and that's something that we should work at over the summer months and see what we can come up with as far as a presentation is concerned in the fall.
I think you know, from the point of view of the Kawartha Halliburton Housing Corporation, they certainly, as far as I can see, have got the message, and that their new builds are certainly, you know, looking at how they can be as accessible as possible. And I think we also need to reach out to the new CAO as soon as that person is in place, and the new manager of housing as well, and include them in anything we do in order to make sure we cover all the bases.
Sounds good, and definitely.
Diane?
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said about that. You know, working with all levels at the city, but we're also an awareness committee, so I think being able to track some of this and making a story of it, I don't think that is in conflict with working closely with the city. I don't think we necessarily have to take a like, how come you're not doing this kind of approach. I think we're just saying here are some of the issues that we're dealing with, and the more the public knows about it, and the more we can present it in an educational kind of way, I think that not only does good here, but it also can, you know, like we can, we might look to Halliburton and other places that have made some headway on this, and that can be included in the kind of education that we do, or what CMHC has to offer. So I think we could think of this as a public education issue as well as just a building issue. So I would hope that we could work on both fronts. That's what I would like to see. And I'd be happy to be part of that, and maybe writing something and circulate it and see if you think it looks okay. You know, I'm happy to participate in some of that.
We can keep that in mind for sure, Diane. You know, like, and I think there is some materials that we can develop, and maybe I should be including you in some of my emails as far as the educational pieces that we want to develop that we can give to the developer up front before they get started on their design processes. And maybe perhaps you can help me with that.
Well, I'm happy to participate in any of this stuff because I'm on that personal road right now, because we're trying to get my son into an apartment at some point as an adult. You know, so all this stuff is just really relevant to me. So I'm happy to participate in any way I can, and in any way I can be helpful. So
I finally realized how I can unmute myself. I think it's a great idea. I think we have to make the public aware, and I believe the whole what we discussed the last few minutes is going to bring to light the hardships and how we can easily fix this. You know, with maybe a tiny bit of money and just some awareness and adaptability, and there's a whole pile of things that we can do that can be easily done. So I think we're going in the right way. So I'll mute myself because there's a lot of noise here.
I've also heard that there may be some grant. I've also heard there may be some grant opportunities available to developers that take on building adaptable housing. So I'm trying to do some research on that as well that can be included in the materials that's offered. So I think that would be certainly, you know, when you tell them there's money available for them to use, then they might take an interest.
Elizabeth?
Barb, do you know if the directive is working on, I don't know what the word is, but to boost some of the requirements through the building code? Because I honestly think we can put something out, we can impress to the public that this needs to be done, but if the builders don't have to, a lot of them aren't going to. It comes down to dollars and cents. It may not cost a lot, but they're going to argue that, you know, if it costs them $500 a unit and there's 20 units in, that's too much money. So I'm wondering if the directive is working on making the requirements in the building code stronger,
The
if you know
accessory-
that.
Yeah, I don't know completely, okay, but I do know that there is a standards development committee, okay, that reviews and provides updates and suggestions. So I could reach out to that group, okay, that's a province-wide group, and ask them specific questions about, you know, development and what they are suggesting, not only to the building code itself, but to the Planning Act. And how are they integrating even the design for public spaces pieces? Because, you know, I'm not seeing in very many communities where the example is the two types of parking. There's a type A and a type B. And I yet to see a whole lot of that type B where it's just a regular parking spot, but it's identified as accessible for those that have canes and walkers and heart conditions, etc. So, you know, and it needs to be bylawed within our secondary plans as well. So, but, you know, it all takes time and it all takes people. And I know the planning department have been stretched to the limit when we talk about the amount of development that's taking place. And so you can imagine how hard they're working right now too, when we've seen, you know, whatever, double or triple, you know, the applications. So it's nobody's fault necessarily. It's just that there needs to be some pieces in the Planning Act and the building code. You're totally right there.
If I may add, we have to be a voice. Maybe this is a start. We have to voice our opinion, which would be the opinion of the Kawartha Lakes Accessory Advisory Committee. And then you'll find out there'll be other accessibility advisory committees all over Ontario will be saying the same thing. And then with that voice, what's become stronger and stronger, guess who's going to start listening? The Ontario Building Code. And sadly, that's how a lot of times the Ontario Building Code will start, you know, they need a voice that says, hey, we got to do changes. If we all stay quiet, it doesn't happen.
The careful part of all that, though, Andre, is that we are an advisory committee to council, and we must all remember that. So your presentation would be to council, and then it would be through council's advice, okay, that it be shared. So we have to be careful that way too.
And I totally agree. That's why we have to do the method that we are proposing, going through planning and then doing a presentation to council in the next few months as we were discussing, and then move it that way. And then council can go with other councils, and then it grows, and then it'll grow.
Diane, you had your hand up as well.
Yeah, well, just to reiterate that there are grants sometimes available to developers to do some of these things. But I just wanted to add one thing about some of these things that we're talking about. They talk a lot about universal accessibility. And the thing is, so many of the things that we want, simple things that we want, they end up being a benefit to everybody. I mean, you know, when they started putting the I don't know what you call that, where the sloped sidewalks to the street, you know, we didn't used to have that. You used to have to somehow get things up the curb because there were no ramped sidewalks. Well, who hasn't, you know, whether you're in a wheelchair or whatever, who has not used that kind of the ramp off the sidewalk? And there's so many things like that, that once you make a change, then just about everybody ends up using them to their own benefit. So taking that kind of approach, that for one thing, that there is such a huge component of our population that has a disability of one kind or another, but also that other people end up benefiting from the changes that are made. I think that's a really important case to be made, both publicly and to council. So I just wanted to add that.
Great. I think it's been a pretty productive, great discussion. Was there anything else anyone wanted to add before we move on? Okay, thank you. So we'll move to 5.4. Councillor Elmsley, your update for us.
Well, I think you've heard enough from me today. I really don't have a lot to offer. I was going to talk about how busy Andre and his group was going to be, and I already used that bullet. But there are indeed a lot of builds coming down the pipe, and I think this is an opportune time to get with planning and see what we can accomplish. And you know, we may shoot for the stars and only get to the moon, but you know, it'll be a step in the right direction. Other than that, I think the Kent Street build is coming along pretty well, and should be, I don't know when they're targeting, Barb, to have that finished. I think it's somewhere around the end of June or July that they hope to have that done, which should be good for everybody. The Fenland construction is going forward, and they've already got the curbs in, and they're pouring concrete for sidewalks. So they will be out of there by June the 18th. It won't be finished, but it'll be usable over the summer months, and they'll come back in September and finish it off. So we're hoping that that will trigger a good summer for our merchants if and when we come out of lockdown. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I'm racking my brain for what's gone on at council that this committee would find affects them more directly, or they need to be aware of. And I can't think of anything other than there is still pandemic relief money available if you belong to an organization that needs help, or has a project that they want to get finished, and were unable to get money as a result of the pandemic because they couldn't do their normal fundraising. As I say, there still is money available in pandemic relief. So make sure that you pass that on and get the applications in. And I think that's pretty much it for me, unless anybody has any questions.
Were there any questions or comments?
Thank
Seeing
you.
none, thank you. Seeing none, I'll ask someone to move to accept the different reports to be received. Elizabeth, seconded by Linda. Thank you. Linda, did you have a comment, or that was just a second? Okay, perfect. Thank you. So we are close to the end of our agenda. We didn't have any new business today. Our next meeting, I would just have to flip to my calendar, should be, let me see. I don't have it in my calendar. Barb, do you know the date of the next meeting?
I
believe it to be June 23rd if we're looking at the fourth Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah.
June 23rd. And then, of course, we do have that reminder that we do have the awards on June 1st. So members of the Public Awareness Committee will be there presenting the awards on the Zoom call, which will be broadcast on YouTube. I'm sure Barb will share the link with everybody else if they don't have it. And then other comments. I saw a couple hands. I think I saw Diane first and then Elizabeth. So Diane, please.
I just want to let you know that I'll be on holidays for that next meeting. So if you want me to send regrets or that's it.
Yeah, if you could send regrets once the, just send regrets to Kathy Lewis.
Okay.
Okay, and she'll make sure that that's noted.
Okay.
If you don't mind. Thanks,
All
Diane.
right. Sorry, I won't be there.
We'll miss you.
Elizabeth.
I just was wanting to confirm with Barb that she would send, either she or Kathy would send out the YouTube link for anyone wanting to watch the awards.
Oh, I can do that. So circulate it to the committee. Okay, I can certainly do that. And I have a meeting tomorrow with the clerk's department, just confirming, like, I've got everything all lined up as far as who's going to speak to each award and, the recipients. There could be a problem with the number of people on the Zoom because all of council is going to be on Zoom too. So we have to do the count. We might have to reduce numbers somehow. So we'll have to, if there's a change, I will certainly communicate that to everybody. We might have to have one quick meeting, like just to discuss it. But I will certainly communicate it before June the 1st.
Yeah, I think, Barb, speaking to that, I mean, we had a lot of people on for the ATV committee of the whole, when it was an item on the committee of the whole. I don't know how many people we had speak, but there were a lot of people, waiting.
Okay.
So I'm sure Joel will be able to tell us.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about it tomorrow at the clerk's meeting. So it's just kind of a heads up, just to make because I sent the numbers, I sent all the contact information for Zoom links, that kind of thing. So it's just a conversation I'm going to have with the clerk's department because it's all virtual. Council's virtual and everybody is. So we just want to make sure it goes smoothly and that it's done well. So like I said, we'll just have a brief conversation and I'll reach out to you if there's any issues. Okay.
Yep.
But-
Okay. Oh, sorry.
I just look forward to it. Okay, thanks.
Me as well. Sharon, you have a comment.
I just wanted to ask, Barb, can you clarify what the issue is with the numbers? Because Zoom meetings can have hundreds of people on them. Is it the difference between having, say, like people on the meeting that are like simply muted and viewing? Or is it the number of people that you have actually participating and could be speaking that seems to be the issue?
It is participating and speaking. Okay, so anyone that receives the invitation to participate in the meeting, it's the numbers there. Okay, so I know what you're saying, Sharon, but it's the technical issues of putting that person on, like with the presentation slide and just making sure things run smoothly, so that we have a good visual when the meeting takes place. So, like I said, it's just a quick conversation with the clerk's department, just confirming, like, are we able to do this and will the transition be good, like between speakers? And, like we don't want to mess things up if we, we just want to make sure it's a really nice ceremony.
Well, I know ideally when we've done the awards before, there's been a number of us from the public awareness working group that have done presentations. But if that's an issue, maybe we might want to just have one of our members from that group do all of the presentations just to help simplify that technical issue. I know it's not ideal and what we would prefer, but.
Yeah, I think that's what the clerk's office was stating, that jumping back and forth between speakers could be an issue, like on the one presentation. So, but let me talk to them about it tomorrow. I like to have as many people of the working group involved as I can, because it's nice, you know, to see that we all can take part a little bit, right? But you know, like I said, if I have an issue, if they think they're going to have a problem, then I'll reach out to you and make sure that it's clear. Okay, what we're going to do. It may be a situation where one will have to do all the presentations to the recipients, but let me talk before. I just thought I'd give you a heads up that we could have to reduce the numbers a little bit just for the appearance of the screen at the time. That's really it, you know, is to make sure all the, you know, the important people for that ceremony are on screen. Okay, that's the big thing. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I will just add that I'm not super into all the details of Zoom licenses, but I know I was on a call a week ago where they actually had to upgrade their license because they had more people who wanted to attend than they thought. So I think there might be different levels, but that's all beyond me. And I'm sure the clerk's department will sort everything out that we need. And yeah, if you need to call, if Barb needs to call a quick meeting to pull public awareness in to sort that out, we can before the awards on June 1st. Was there anything else before we move to adjourn? No, head shaking. Okay, we could, if we could get an emotion to adjourn the meeting. Linda, thank you. Seconder by Sonia. And it was nice to see everybody. Hopefully, I was saying before that oh, Doug? Nope, just saying bye. I was saying earlier before we started the meeting that it's Mental Health Awareness Week. My children got a mental health day at school today where they were just able to do whatever filled their bucket or made them feel good. So hopefully everyone has a chance to do something today, maybe take a walk outside or enjoy the nice weather to do that for yourself. It was nice to see everybody and I look forward to seeing some of your faces June 1st and see you again in June. Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye. Thank you.